All right, so back to you. So if you want to introduce yourself, just kind of say who you are and what you do, and anything you want to preface the conversation with, we'll dive in and go from there.
All right, so hello everyone. My name is Sam Mitchell, and I run a podcast called Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's a podcast about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much. I developed sponsors, a board of 6 members. I'm also an event planner in Indiana, where I'm from. I also do motivational speaking services. I've spoken in Oklahoma, Orlando 3 times, Canada twice, Stewart, Florida, and Washington, D.C.
Man, that's a lot. So
And through the podcast, what I'm really trying to do is change a population that, in my view, gets ignored way too often.
yeah, man, there's a lot of things going on over there. So I guess I'll start with what you said first. You said you've grown it to the point where you've got like sponsors and you got people that work on the podcast and stuff. Is that right?
The podcast person is me. We have the nonprofit that works on the events and the speaking engagements and the financial aids of it, which is my board.
Okay.
You don't want to put me through finances because I'll screw it up in an instant.
I'm with you on that. So what was that like building that thing? Like how many episodes you have? This episode is brought to you by Excel Coaching Academy. Hey guys, I'm really excited to let you know that I started a mindset coaching business. So what I want to do with this business is I want to help entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, leaders, and fitness enthusiasts or athletes develop the right mindset to increase revenue, improve business or performance, and overcome the challenges needed to become the best version of themselves. You can get more information about this by emailing info@excelcoaching.academy.
Two man account on one finger. But the way I was like building it, it was a fun time. It kind of built on its own because one of our board president was the one who really helped me out. He wanted to make sponsors for the show, which I didn't know you could sponsor a podcast. I literally thought that was just for movies, television, and radio. I didn't know it was for podcasts, which is great. Learned something new today is what you can call it.
Yep.
Then you want to start a board. Okay, don't know what that is, but let's go for it. All right, now I want to do a gala. Okay, I don't know what a gala is, but let's go for it. Oh, Sam, by the way, in Oklahoma, and this one didn't happen through the board. This was just separate. By the way, Sam, someone in February 2022 invited you to go speak in Broken Arrows, Oklahoma. Do you want to go? Okay. And then it just progressed from there. The rest is history. We had to have a family meeting to see if we wanted to continue it because, gosh, it was growing so quick, man.
That's crazy.
Our board president has done nonprofits before. He has not seen a board and a nonprofit grown this quick.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you just did this thing and then you just started speaking, like at places. What, I mean, you don't have it doesn't bother you to speak in front of people? Like a lot of people have a fear of like
I know.
public speaking.
The trick with that is I've been booed so much in my life, I don't care. If you want to boo me. I really don't care. I'm there. They invited me. That's your problem. You don't like it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Cause a lot of people, I think like something like 90% of podcasts don't make it like to 10 episodes or something like that. And you're out
that's
here.
crazy, man. I just think they probably don't think that, oh, you got to think down the road too. You think in the moment. They think, okay, I got 10 episodes here. Oh, what else can I talk about? Okay, I quit.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot more you could talk about with autism, at least.
Yeah. So what's your, I know you said that like you feel like these people get ignored. What's your main message you're trying to get out?
But here's the problem. I would say a lot of people on the spectrum get ignored, and it's no matter where you're on the spectrum. And it's so frustrating because you miss talents. You miss a great employee because we can work. On the burp. And then what's frustrating too is people forget it's a spectrum disorder. Here's an example. We have the spectrum, right? We call it low functioning, high functioning, middle of the road. I hate that. I call it the mindset of. So we have person A. Person A diagnosed with autism at 4. And he is the mindset of a 3-year-old, right? Or a 2-year-old. He can't brush his teeth. He can't go to the bathroom on his own. Someone has to bathe and shower him. He's still reading children's books at 2 years old. His grandma still picks him up and sings him a lullaby. All right? That's what people think of with autism mainly. Right. But then people forget, okay, we have person B, maybe his brother, who is middle of the road, who has grown up, can use the bathroom on his own, wants to be mature, but here's the kicker. Despite him having to go to work, he can't live on his own, because if it does, it's going to be a disaster. It's literally like the life of a middle schooler or a college kid, right?
Right.
Then we have people like myself who can work, who can use the bathroom on his own because I'm not wearing a diaper. I'll just spoil that right now. Who can bathe on his own, who can brush his teeth, and is actually in college right now studying broadcasting. Maybe, okay, I don't have the mindset of how old I am, which is 22. So realistically, I would say I have the mind of a 21 or 20-year-old. They're just a little developmentally delayed. And that's what's aggravating, is they're not seeing that side. It's just one side of autism. Not the case.
So you don't feel that people understand it. You think they have a very general understanding of it, and they just kind of apply that to the whole spectrum.
Right. And it's frustrating because you really don't understand it unless you're affiliated with it. And I know a lot of people are getting diagnosed, like, oh, they can say my brother's autistic. Oh, I'm a special education teacher. Oh, my dad is autistic even. But it still, in my opinion, needs to be involved those who are not involved in the autism role, because you might run into that person and then you're at a loss. You don't know what to do.
Yeah. So when you try to get this message out, like how do you, I know you said you do speaking engagements, you have the podcast, like is there any other ways that you do this? I think you just said you're studying broadcasting. So you're like already in that space. Like is there anything else you work on other than the podcast and the speaking?
Well, kind of living, because if you think about showing what I can do, because when I'm done with this interview, I have to go shoot some with the group, obviously, B-roll footage for a story we're going to do on our campus's play. And you're telling me because I'm on the spectrum, I can't go do that with them? Are you kidding me?
Well, I'll tell you what, man, I love that you're not being held back. Like you're the kind of person that like gets out on the front lines and says what he's got to say. And I appreciate that about a person.
That's part of family wise too. If you meet my family, both sides are different personalities, but we're both very outspoken.
Yeah.
One side will probably tell you how it is, and the other side will also tell you how it is, but maybe with a little more force.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that's what we need, man. I think a lot of us, we're sort of craving that authenticity, that outspokenness. You know, I think that's why podcasts are doing so well, because people get on there and it's authentic. You know, they say what they have to say. And I think we just want that. We crave that. You know, there's something about that we haven't had with the social media a lot, you know?
Right. That's because you're obligated to keep it tame. Because let's think about it, you're opinionated, you're going to get your butt blocked.
Hmm.
Now, I think there's sometimes opinions are expressed the wrong way, but I still think sometimes social media will block you despite you expressing it the right way.
You know, it's really kind of scary if you think about the power social media has to block a person or cancel a person or delete a person for saying something that they feel that is not, you know, mainstream or something they don't agree with. I think that's a dangerous road to go down. You know, once you start deleting people or deleting their voice because they say something you don't agree with.
And that's hard to do because, in my view, we should have the First Amendment. I agree, freedom of speech.
Yep.
That's what we were born with. But because of the way I was raised, there is a line. And I've crossed it many times to count on one finger. So I know what it's like to be blunt. But I got smacked in the back of the head for it, metaphorically, because it was disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
You don't call someone a effing idiot because they're a Democrat or Republican.
Right.
You can disagree with their view. Okay,
Yep.
I'm not going to say what I am politically. But even if I was Republican or Democrat, that wouldn't be the thing that would make me call them an idiot. It'd be something else.
Yeah.
Disrespect.
Well, and I think, and that's a good point too, because I think when we say freedom of speech, like a person should have the right to say what they feel and think, I don't think that means going around disrespecting everybody, because it takes very little self-control to think of a thing that's disrespectful and then still say that thing to a person. I do think that we should have freedom of speech. I don't think that's an excuse to go around and disrespect people for no reason though, you know?
Oh, I agree. But I know there are people like that who get it, like most of Americans, like you and mainly you and I.
Yeah.
But there's some who think freedom of speech. I can say what I want.
Yeah.
I can flip off the cop.
Yeah.
Try again.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the crazy thing is, like, social media, to whatever extent it has freedom of speech, it doesn't have the repercussions of freedom of speech. So, if you go up on the street and you say something disrespectful to a random person, several things could happen. You might get slapped in the face, or, you might get cussed out yourself or whatever. But it's like on social media, the retaliation of that is limited. So people they just go crazy with it. They just say whatever because there's no repercussions other than the person typing something back to them.
Right, I agree.
So, it's very different saying like a lot of the stuff that people say on social media versus saying it in real life in the real world. I mean, it's just, and I think that's one of the many ways that social media is kind of, taking that valuable human connection away from us that we kind of have, in the in-person stuff. I mean, there's great parts of it, like we had the podcast, we have the virtual stuff, we can meet new people and have conversations like this. But I think at the same time, man, it's like, it's not, I don't think it should replace our human connections, our human interactions,
Right.
So when you do these speaking engagements, so you go and speak is there certain places you go speak to? Like, is it schools or businesses, or what do you?
It's businesses, it's podcast, conventions. I've done it at schools before, yes. Some in Indiana, which is mainly where I'm from, as I mentioned before. I got one actually in February where I will be speaking to HR employers on why I need to hire people with autism. I've done that before in Washington, D.C., and I spoke at the Neurodiversity in the Workplace in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Wow. So, so one thing that you're big on is like people understanding this. And I don't, if you don't want to answer this, you don't have to, but where do you think is the biggest misunderstanding? Is it schools? Is it business? Is it, a specific niche? Like, where do you think is the biggest misunderstanding that people have? Like the biggest group?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. I mean, despite the fact that they're still special education teachers, I think sometimes they are a little bit of an underestimation of what we can do. Am I happy they support us? Oh my gosh, yes. We need resources out there, my friend. You don't have enough.
Yeah.
But I don't think they sometimes realize, oh, he can't tell time, but he can go speak on the Capitol Hill of Washington, D.C. to tell people why Special Olympics should not be getting rid of, which I know someone who has done that.
You said this is getting rid of, they're getting rid of it?
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Well, they're thinking about it, but I think in certain states and certain spots, it's not important enough or it's not funded enough. So this person who I met has literally gone to the Capitol Hill and spoke about to legislators, keep the Special Olympics.
Well, I think that your podcast doing as well as it is, I think that says that people want to hear this. Like, people need to hear this, like this message that you have. I think people are agreeing with that. And that's probably one of the reasons you're doing so well with the podcast, I would think.
Oh, probably. It's because I think it's a message that needs to be heard no matter where you are. And this podcast is literally for all ages. I've had a wide variety of guests. I've had a 14-year-old who was from Mayor's Got Talent, Jacob Velasquez. He's a musician. He didn't make it far. I think he got to the deliberations, but there's an audition about him still. To 58-year-olds, which is my latest guest that will drop out on Sunday. And he's basically a life and confidence coach who's on the autism spectrum. But he was late diagnosed at 58.
Oh, okay. And so, do you only bring on people who are on the spectrum at some place, or is it ever not?
No, the only condition is you either have to have a story or have a medical condition.
Okay.
I've literally had my latest episode was not involved with autism at all. She was just a domestic abuse survivor.
Okay.
And they just people with incredible stories. My favorite story is Amber Lee Snyder. Her story is doing great. Like she was a barrel racer before an event happened. The event was on January 2010. I can't remember the exact date. She had a truck accident, and it flipped over her. I don't know how many times it flipped on her, but it was bad. It was really bad. I looked at pictures. I thought, oh, boy. And that truck accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. Well, when you're paralyzed from the waist down, you're thinking, oh, I can't barrel race anymore. That's what the doctors told her. She said, nope, screw you, and I'm going to barrel race. Today,
Wow.
she's still paralyzed from the waist down, but she's barrel racing.
Yeah, that's incredible. So she's just out there doing the thing regardless.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's hard enough for me to stay on a horse with that. It's hard enough for me to stay on a horse. I can't imagine if you're paralyzed from the waist down, you know? Like she actually rides the horse?
Yeah, like kind of joke. I should have made this joke with her because we have feelings in our legs, and we can feel the way we get stiff
Yeah.
too much. She
Yeah.
has no feeling, so she probably doesn't get stiff.
That's crazy, man. That's like talent, you know? But that's also like it's also a lot that when a person's in that situation and they still achieve that thing, like that's fascinating to me. That people like I feel like there's literally the only thing that's stopping us from being whoever it is that we want to be is literally ourselves. You know, that's the only thing that's stopping us.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, there's people out there with suicide who cannot take it. They've had enough.
Yeah.
And that's why they do it. They just can't take it anymore. But the only way you're going to make it in life is through those tough times. You got to hang in there.
Yep.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish, I'm not the person that has the message for people in that space, but I hope they hear what they need to hear, you know, in that space. Cause I can't imagine, being in that space and feeling like that was your only option, you know, the suicide part of it. I can't imagine that.
Oh, it's awful. I'm not saying I've had suicidal thoughts, but I can't even imagine it either. You feel so bad about yourself. Your life is worthless. You really believe that? Ugh, that's
Right.
awful.
Yeah.
You, my friend, need to get checked out.
Well, it's like a scary
And
situation.
I'm not saying because of to feel better. Maybe it is to feel better, but I didn't say that you're there. I mean, it's a nice guy in me that's shooting out.
Yeah. That's crazy, man. That's a scary situation. But you know what I think is, I think when we make it through situations like that, I think we always come out on the other side better than who we were before we came in. You know, you hear about the storm. We always go through the storm and you always come out a stronger person on the other end of it. I think that's 100% true.
Well, we learn about not to make that same mistake again, or if it affects us, if we're strong enough, we'll say we're doing it anyway. That's a decision in life you have to make. For 15 years of my whole life, I was excluded. Guess who had enough of it for 15 years? Myself. I could have put a gun to my head. I'm not going to lie to you there. I could have slit my throat out. But you know what I said? No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to be myself. If you don't like it and you want to boo me, go right ahead. It ain't going to bother me anymore. You know what happened, though, after I had that shift? Made more friends, gained more self-confidence, started a podcast, and felt like I could live life. My life began at 16 years old.
That's an interesting way to put it. So you stepped into who you wanted to be, regardless of what other people thought. And after that, you know, you said you were excluded, but now you have this podcast that everybody's listening to, and you're doing all these speaking engagements. So now it's like people want to hear what you have to say.
Finally, yeah.
Yeah, after stepping in, that's crazy, you know. And I wonder how many of us, if we really just were our authentic self, I wonder how much good that would do for us. You know, if we didn't try to fit ourselves into a box that somebody else wanted us to be.
Well, I think part of the problem is people pleasing. People want to please others just to get approval.
Yep.
Do you know what? I'm not going to do that. Has it caused issues with me down the road? Have I made some enemies? Yeah. But I tried it. And you know what I lived with? Regrets and sadness. I'd rather have more enemies than regrets. If we could just walk down the path without looking back over our shoulder, life is so much better. I know that from experience.
You know, it's crazy, man. As I was talking to somebody about people pleasing, and I mentioned to them that when you people please, when you're trying to just please other people, yes, you gain their trust and you might gain what seems like a friendship with them, but you lose trust in yourself and you lose the friendship with yourself because you're just being a person that you feel like they want you to be. You know, you're not really being who you are. And the things that you say, the things that you do is literally just to get their approval. And I don't think that's sustainable. I don't think that's sustainable for anybody.
And you might gain more friends, but it's not real. It wasn't real for 15 years, I felt like.
Yep.
And when I did turn to myself, I made more friends, but I also realized this. There's 2.5 billion people on Earth. And you try to please people because you probably don't think, well, no one's going to find me interesting. Well, pardon the French, but bullshit.
Right.
There's 2.5 people around this universe. Someone's going to find you interesting. I find it very hard to believe that there's no one in the world that's going to find you interesting. Now, they might not be your neighbor. They might be up in Texas or down in Washington or to the left of California, but they're somewhere.
Yep. And the thing is, like, this is what I say to people all the time. Like, you're the only person who can be you. Nobody else can bring what you can bring to the earth. Nobody has your mentality, your philosophy on things. Nobody can bring the ideas that you can bring. It's like the things that you're doing, things you're saying, what you talk about, like, you don't know who that's going to touch and help, and inspire. I mean, it's obviously helping somebody because everybody, your podcast is growing and you have all these speaking opportunities. Like, if you don't try that, you never know what's possible.
Yeah, and I'm not doing it for the money. I mean, at the end of the day, my goal was still to help people. Do we make some fun, surprisingly, and still do? Yeah, and I'm very happy of it. I'm not saying it's not awful. It's a luxury to have. But when I'm putting my head on my pillow, the goal at the end of the day is to help someone. That's why I wanted to start this podcast. Because for 15 years, I never had the opportunity to help people, despite wanting to. I mean, I could do little favors, but nothing big. Well, at 16 years old, I had a chance, and I took it.
And that's crazy, man. And that's like, I think you're right. I think at the end of the day, it is about helping people. Like, maybe if it's somebody that was in a similar situation that you were, or, somebody, I don't know, it could be somebody who's never heard a podcast before. They hear yours or they see your speaking and, you change their life. I mean, that's certainly like, I think that we think, all of us, we think that we're just a normal person, just an average person. And who are we to help somebody? But you never know, man. There could be one person whose life you change forever just because, you started a podcast or whatever it was.
That's what I want to do. Yeah. Honestly, one person's life change, I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, that's all it takes, because then maybe that person goes and changes another life and that person changes another life. And it's just like it's a domino effect.
It really is.
So what do you do outside the podcast, man? Like, what do you do outside the podcast and the speaking? Sounds like you're a busy person.
Well, that's really what I like to do. I mean, it's definitely a hobby of mine, but we said we're going to broadcasting for Vincent University. I'm wearing the lanyard. Yeah, I'm wearing the lanyard for it today. That's actually the key to my dorm. But I also enjoy a lot of, as I call it, country boy habits. So a lot of country things I enjoy doing, like, if I could, I don't have it anymore, but four-wheeler riding, I did that a lot growing up.
Okay.
I went fishing. Fishing's definitely a hobby of mine. And watching television, I definitely gained a few pounds by going out to eat. And the one of the things I like to do just because of the adventure, and I'm just a very adventurous person, is travel. I've been to, for vacation, Texas, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee. I'm trying to think where else. Florida.
You ever been to South Carolina?
Mississippi. There we go. Mississippi.
Okay. You ever been to South Carolina? I think a lot of people come to here to the beaches.
We wanted to go to Myrtle Beach, but didn't pan out.
Okay. Yeah, I have. I go to Myrtle Beach often, to be honest with you. Yeah. I think Charleston is a good beach too. A lot of people go to Charleston for the beach.
I'm definitely not a beach guy. I always prefer. Well, it depends, I guess, what you call a beach. If you call like an Indiana beach, no, because the water's not clear. The sand feels like someone poured it out of a construction site. That's not a beach. If you're not like a Florida beach where the water is clear and the sand feels authentically real, and maybe there's some jellyfish, for example, in the water. Okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do, don't go to Myrtle. Don't go to Myrtle Beach because Myrtle Beach is not clear. Though, I mean, I think like this past summer, there was the water was clear for a little bit, but it's not like what you're thinking about, the Florida beach or whatever. It's not like that.
Yeah, that's the type of beaches I prefer. That's a beach.
Yeah.
What you call maybe in South Carolina, that's not a beach. That's just what you call a sandlot.
Yeah. This like got 1 million people on it. There's always so many people down there.
Pretty much.
I think the best beach I've ever been to was it was near, I think it was Oak Island, near like an hour south of Wilmington in North Carolina. But it was one of those beaches that didn't really have, like, there was almost nobody on the beach. You know, it was not populated at all. Like, you go on the beach and either way you see beach for miles. Like, there was nobody there, you know. I had a friend that got married up there, and it was a nice experience. But I mean, I don't know. I'm more of a beach person than like a mountain person or, you know, anything. I do want to. I have several places I want to travel though. You ever been outside of the U.S.?
Canada once for a speaking engagement trip.
Okay. All right. What was?
That's it. I haven't been like Mexico or Europe or anything like that. My mom has. She's a teacher, and what they did was kind of cool. So one year they brought the Chinese students to visit America, and then the other year they brought the Chinese students brought the American students to visit China.
Okay. So you said your mom went out did that?
Yes, my mom did. I did not go. I was too young to at the time span to travel anyway, and it was for the staff only. So I wasn't a teacher at the time span. I'm still not a teacher, but because of that reason, I was not allowed to go.
I got you. I kind of want to go to Japan, to be honest with you. I think Japan's got it figured out. I think they're so far ahead of everybody in technology.
I would love to, but this is a legit concern of mine. I'm scared I'm going to end up breaking one of the rules there unintentionally.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm in a South American prison.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about their politics or anything like that, but I know the country itself, they seem like advanced. You know, they seem technologically advanced. I'd like to go to Russia too, though, just because I think Russia's got a very unique culture. Like Russia's got we were talking about the cold plunge before we started this, and there's been videos going around online where like they just, you know, it's cold in Russia, so they just do that. Like that's just what they do over there. Like you'll see like a 15-year-old, 10-year-old kid getting in a cold plunge.
Yeah, no. I don't like the cold. That's for them. Have fun. I'm gonna be watching in the back, laughing at your butt because you are an idiot.
Man, look, I'm telling you, the cold plunge is, I think you call it a polar plunge. Like once you try that thing, dude, I'm telling you, it's like an experience. You ever been in a sauna or anything?
I've done that before, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's my thing. I'd rather do that sweat.
Yeah. I don't know. So, you know, some people, they'll do it back to back. They'll do the sauna and then they'll jump right into the cold plunge and then go back to the sauna and back to the cold plunge. And man, that's that's crazy. Going hot to cold, hot to cold. It's like actually very healthy for you. But yeah, it's an experience.
Have fun with that.
So you don't do any kind of working out or anything like that?
No, I'm the furthest thing from an athlete, buddy. I've done work with broadcasting wise. Forgot to mention what I do at my school is I do work the games.
Okay.
And not the games, the basketball games. So I've done camera work for the boss, or my boss itself for Blazer Vision. That's what that's called. I've done audio work where every time there's a timeout, I play some music for you. I've done graphic work. I haven't done any TDing yet, although I might try to convince my boss to let me do one before I head out.
So the reason I was going to ask you, I got a guy coming on the podcast in a couple weeks, and he does like fitness training for people with autism, and I'm not sure what his message is or how he does it. I haven't talked to him yet, but that's kind of like his thing. So I don't know if you know, might be good for you if you take people on your podcast on your guest.
I do send him my way, and if not, I just have another podcaster who would be a good fit for it that does talk about fitness and autism. So it will work out either way.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because I don't know what he does, but somehow that's who he works with. But yeah, man, I don't know, the traveling thing. Going back to the traveling thing for a minute, I think Japan, Russia. I'd like to go to Australia just to kind of get a sense of it. Like, you know, everybody I've ever met from Australia is like, they're like nice people over there. I feel like I'd like to go to. Well, there's several places in Europe I'd like to go to, but I don't know. I've never been outside of the U.S. I've been all across the U.S., but I've never been outside.
I just prefer to stick with the U.S. Maybe one day if it comes by me, maybe a cruise ship, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about a ship, man. I mean, a cruise ship is like big enough. Maybe you wouldn't get seasick, but I feel like I would get motion sickness out there, to be honest.
I can see that. Yep.
Yeah, and then if you do it, you're out there.
Overboard.
Yeah, then you're just out there, then you're just stuck. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if you've ever seen those pictures of like the deep ocean or whatever. Like you see a diver like way at the top, and then like the bottom is just like pitch black. That absolutely terrifies me.
Oh, I could see that though.
Like people do all this scuba diving stuff, and you look down, and it's just like nothing but blackness.
So you want to get along with my domestic abuse survivor lady just now? That was her thing.
Oh, she loves scuba diving.
Oh, she loves scuba diving.
Oh man, that's like people. Like people go skydiving, like it's like a thrill or whatever.
Oh, I do that. And I like heights, and I like water, and I like roller coasters. But there's some stuff, yeah, that if it's maybe, I would say too high because I'll do it. That's my mother. But I'm very adventurous. Like I said, that's me being adventurous.
Yeah.
If it involves haunted stuff, that's what I was trying to go for. If it involves haunted stuff, I don't know
about jumping out of a completely functioning plane. Like that's just like people just jump out of the plane, just dive. I don't know. That definitely be an experience. But I don't really do roller coasters. Like I'm not a roller coaster guy.
Oh, I do them. I like to do them. If there's an option too.
I don't know. They give me a headache. I loved them as a kid, but now they give me a headache. I guess
fair enough.
I guess it's all the moving around. So you got the podcast going on. You got all these speaking engagements. You're a student, college student. Anything else about yourself?
Well, there's something else I do. I guess I just thought of. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll vendor for certain events if I can. So there's this event in Indiana. It's the biggest Midwestern pro wrestling convention out there called the Squared Circle Expo. And I visited there a couple of years ago and loved it so much I decided to vendor for them. And a lot of people on the spectrum turn out to like professional wrestling. That's one of mine. I've had a lot of wrestlers on the show too. I've got to mention. I've had Mick Foley on the show, Kane on, Buff Bagwell, Jake the Snake.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who else I've had. Victoria, RVD, Al Snow, Raven. It's a fun list. And I'll vendor for there, try to promote the word. Then this new one, though, in May, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'd like to do it. We're going to vendor for this comic book called the Hall of Heroes. It's a superhero museum that I visited to once upon a time as a kid. And it turns out they've grown so much they now have a Comic Con that I would like to vendor for. And the way we're going to do it is to show people why those with autism are superheroes.
I like that. Yeah.
And because I think, too, a lot of people on the spectrum like things like that, such as superheroes, comic books.
Yep. Yeah,
I bet you $100, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a guy who's on the spectrum that is totally fixated on Superman.
Yeah. I like that connection, man. That's cool that you're doing that. What was it like having Kane and all those guys on your podcast?
Oh, it was fun. They were all pretty nice guys. It was definitely a little bit stressful because they only gave me a certain time amount.
Yeah.
To have on them, and I don't like time.
Yeah.
Like, I have a big problem with time amounts. Like, I'm looking at the stopwatch, like, oh boy, are they gonna call on me? Oh boy, need to get this done.
Yeah, makes it stressful.
Yeah, but it's all right. It's a little stress I can deal with, and I'm not gonna pass the experience of it.
No, yeah, for sure. What did you guys? What did you talk about with those guys?
Well, with Kane, we know he's the mayor of Tennessee, so. Because of his mayor, we talked about him being a mayor, and he's just one of the nicest guys out there alive, according to a lot of wrestlers. So he's very kind, and we talked about kindness. Jake the Snake, gosh, that guy has a story. I'll just tell you what his ordeal is. He has 2 grandchildren with autism and cerebral palsy. What was it? One parent physically assaulted him. His dad sexually assaulted him. Or maybe his mom, not for sure. One parent did the physical abuse. The other parent did the sexual abuse towards him. And then he's been through like drug abuse and alcohol abuse. And today he has COPD. Which is a disease of the lungs, and you just can't breathe well when you got that.
Right. That's crazy, man. So you've had some literally celebrities on your podcast.
Yeah, I've had some celebrities on the show. I mean, I won't say they're the biggest names out there, but I think they're pretty cool people. I mean, and they're not all from wrestling. Some come from American Idol, America's Got Talent. One of them was Amanda Ann. I think she appeared on the show a couple years ago, and she is amazing in my view. She stutters, but when she sings, the stuttering stops.
Yeah, I like those America's Got Talent and American Idol and stuff. Man, some of those people like are really really talented on those shows. Like it's crazy. It's crazy the level of talent that's like out there. You know.
Oh, it is. It's pretty cool. One of my favorites was Cody Lee from America's Got Talent, who was blind autistic, but the minute he played piano, everyone's mind was blown.
Was he good?
He won.
Oh, okay.
He won the show. So yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know the guy's name, but I remember seeing. I think he was like a he was a janitor or something like
Yeah,
that.
Richard Goodall from Terre Haute.
I'm not sure, but he started singing what was it? The Journey song?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, dude, that guy blew me away. I was not expecting that, and he was really good. Like he could really sing.
Yeah, I think he won, didn't he?
I think he got what is it? The golden.
He got the golden buzzer.
Yeah,
I think he won that season too.
Yeah, I didn't see the season, but I did see the clip. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Just the level of talent that's out there. You know, I don't know. I kind of wish I could sing like that. I can't sing.
I can't sing or dance like that either. Now I can speak
clearly,
but just singing, no.
Well, that's your thing. Your talent is speaking. So, you know, you're using it for the right way, I think. Yeah. So you got a lot going on over there, man. How do you like manage your time and your stress? There's got to be it's got to be stressful that sometimes doing all this stuff.
Oh, it is at points, but I do the work what I can do, and then just whenever I can, I make sure to see my friends. There's a reason I go up at the study hall all day to see the friends I made there. I couldn't today just because of busyness, and yesterday I was up editing my new episode coming out. But the past 3 days I went up there to see him.
Okay. So you just like you one of the ways you manage stress is just like from social interaction for like friends and stuff.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good way to take your mind off of things, you know, especially when, you know, there's a lot going on, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, whatever. Hanging out with people kind of, I don't know, it helps you, I guess, be present.
It does. And there was a lot, but if I get overwhelmed, I'll definitely try to calm down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the unfortunate thing, man. We're all, you know, a lot of people aren't as busy as you are, but people are busy and we have things going on. People have families and jobs and everything. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like the last couple of years, everybody's stress level has been absolutely to the max, you know, just like everybody's stressed out with business and work and family and education or whatever it is for them. You know, people just, and I'm just curious how different people manage stress, because I think there's no shortage of things to be stressed out about, especially if you're a person who's in the content creation space like you and I are, and you're on social media a lot, you know, and there's social media can go one of two ways. There can be like negative things. There can be positive things. You can use it to interact with people, or you can just be inundated with all the negativity in the world. And I don't know. I think managing stress is like extremely important for all of us.
You're not wrong about there. There's ways to manage it. I mean, people have different ways of doing it. I know one way I've managed stress before is I'll try not to interact with people as much as I can. So, spoiler alert, I do work on the weekends. But if I'm not working on the weekend, like this weekend, then what I'll do is on Fridays in particular, Fridays is what I call no interaction days, where I'll literally not hang out with people or try to be as less socially as I can, because dealing with people for 5 days in a row is too much for me.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Kind of takes it out of you a little bit.
Oh, you have no idea, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, though. I know people who are, you know, in both ways. I know people who get really drained from social interaction, and some people get energized by it. Some people love being around people. I mean, I think I have a limit just like everybody else, and I try to, you know, not overdo it. But I think knowing that about yourself is really important.
I'm with you, man. I got a limit too, and if I exacerbate it more, I'm gonna go sleep.
Yeah, you'll knock yourself out from it, you know. But I mean,
Yeah, Rocky Balboa didn't have to throw the punch to knock me out. I threw the punch myself.
that's right. Yeah, I don't know though, man. I think, like I said, I think that the key thing there is knowing the difference between the connection with people like in person and then the social media stuff. Because I talk a lot about social media on this podcast. And I feel like I don't know. We got to be careful with it. You know, it could go one of two ways. But so where is your podcast? What's the name of your podcast? Where's it located at?
It's in my hometown, which is Owensburg, but that is also it's real between Bloomington and Bedford,
Okay.
but it's worldwide. I mean, I've had people listen to it in Bosnia, and I say it correctly. You'll have to bear with me. I probably butcher that. England. I've had a couple people from Germany listen to it. I've had someone in Switzerland listen to it before. It's worldwide for sure.
Okay. Is it what's the name of it?
Autism Rocks and Rolls.
Okay. Is it on like Spotify or
Yeah,
YouTube?
yeah. I'm not hard to find on it. You can find me on your favorite media platform. All you gotta do is Google me or search engine optimization, and something will pop up.
Okay. So these speaking engagements, are those recorded too, or is that something you don't really record?
No.
Okay.
I would love to, but it's just time.
Right. I got you.
But the podcast and not the events, but a lot of the social media content comes out too. I've done a lot of projects with people too that don't involve the podcast. One example was I did a panel on reimagining success with someone from England. I recently recorded an episode of a new spin-off series, kind of what I call the Autism Rocks and Rolls Podcast Hijack series, which basically means an aspiring person or a doctor or someone who has worked in the mental health field will literally hijack the show. They'll blab about their connection with autism or mental health maybe, and then promote their business.
Okay.
It was a way to get more content.
Did it work?
I haven't asked yet. I need
Okay.
to ask my grandfather who listens to my show a lot and ask him, so we'll see about that one. And then my mom still probably needs to watch it too on YouTube.
Okay. So
I think it did. I just don't know yet.
I got you. Yeah. So one thing I usually ask everybody towards the end of this podcast, man, if you could share one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, if it could be your personal life, if it's something you're comfortable sharing, or from your speaking engagements, your podcast, what do you think is one of the most important lessons you've ever learned?
I would say the most important lesson I've learned is really something I created myself, is just to be kind to people. It gets you a long way. If the world could just be nice and not act so stupid, I think we get along so much better, don't you think, man?
I think so. I mean, it's like I was saying earlier, like you never know who that benefits, like, you know, whose life that changes, you know, and it might be all that person needs. It might just be, they just might need to hear that kind word.
And if you don't believe it works, it works. For 15 years, I tried being nice. I was like that. I didn't think it was going to work.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Well, and I think it's too that like the people that experience the most unkind people are usually the most kind people, because they know what the opposite feels like. And I think the world needs people like that. I mean, can you imagine, you mentioned earlier, like the billions of people on the planet. Can you imagine if everybody on the planet just went out right now at this minute today and did something kind for one other person? Can you imagine what that would do to the world?
Oh, man. I feel like it would be a better place and safer.
I mean, I feel like literally instantly the entire world would change. Like everything would shift literally at one time.
You're probably not wrong there.
Because I don't know, man, people have their own battles and they have their own things they're dealing with. And, you know, we talked about their stress. People have their stresses. People have things going on, and you never know what that person's dealing with. So you might be the only kind word they hear that day.
I very well could be.
You know, and I don't know. I don't think we should underestimate the power that we have to positively affect other people. You know, I think that's a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I appreciate what you're doing out there, man. You're getting this message out. You're trying to get the message that you feel that this message is misunderstood, and you're trying to share that with other people. And you're trying to use, what it sounds like your personal experience to do that. And I don't know, that's an incredible thing. There's not a lot of people that do that.
Yeah, it takes some courage to do, but what else am I going to do with it?
Hmm. Let me ask you about that courage. I don't know if we talked about this earlier. Where do you think that, like, if a person's in a situation and they need to take that next step or do that thing, where do you think they could get that courage from? Where do you think that comes from?
The only person who can really do it's themselves.
Hmm.
I mean, they can say all they want, I don't know how to do it. People can advise them, but you can.
Yep.
The only person who really can do it, though, is you.
Hmm. Yeah, so we have to be aware of the fact that we're the only one that can make it happen.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're really delusional.
Hmm. That makes sense. That makes me think about a lot of us. It's very easy for us to blame outside sources, society or politics or whatever it is. But it's like when we do that, we take away the responsibility that we have ourselves. If we blame somebody else, and I'm not saying that there's not things that don't happen to us that are at fault of society and everything else, but if we blame every single thing on an outside source, that also means the power to change that is in that outside source. So, if we say it's because politics or whatever that XYZ happened, then that means that we can't change it if we put the blame. Power follows blame is what happens.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah. So it's like if I blame somebody else, then what is that person supposed to do it for me? I don't know.
No, they're not supposed to, because in our world, you don't hold people's hands.
Hmm.
The work comes from you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the only way it can, like you imagine your story, like all the things that you're doing, all the things you've done, like nobody else could do that other than you. You can't, like nobody else can live your specific life other than you. And I think it's just foolish for us to think that somebody else is supposed to do that.
And we probably are foolish then.
Yeah. Listen, man, I know we talked about a lot. Look, I'm like notorious for going all over the place. Like I'll go off on tangent and stuff.
Don't feel bad. I got ADHD, so I'll do the same thing by accident.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like to cover a lot of things. Is there anything that we didn't get into that you wanted to cover?
Well, I can mention I've done a TEDx talk called Soul Structure.
Okay.
It's about why those on the spectrum need structure. It's definitely qualified as a TED talk. We had to do it virtually, sadly, because of COVID. But
Okay.
It's still qualified. You can find it on the website, autismrocksrose.com, and to see why pinball is very similar to autism.
So what do you mean when you say structure? What are you talking about?
I just mean routines.
Okay.
People appreciate routines, and those on the spectrum do. A great example is the latest guest I had. I'll spoil a little bit for you. So his favorite food is pizza, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, or one of them.
Right.
Well, every Friday night for him is pizza night because that's part of routine.
Right.
And for me, I appreciate that as I was younger. If you told me you didn't tell me before I went to school, hey, after school, we're going to Walmart, I would have a huge fit or a little tussy maybe and have a meltdown. But as I gotten older, I'm not too nitpicky on structure. Now, when it comes to my work, yeah, I'm pretty particular about it. But when it comes to certain life stuff, like what do you want to go to, Culver's or Wendy's, I don't care.
Yeah. Why do you think routine and structure are so important?
Because it gives us a sense of comfort. We know what to expect in a world where we don't know what to expect.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Let's think about it. If we hop on a plane, you don't know if we're going to live tonight through that plane ship. Realistically, It's a high chance you will, but do you know 100% sure? No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way to put that, man. I've never thought about that before. It gives you certainty in a world full of uncertainty.
It really does.
Yeah. And I think routines are also one thing that help lead to consistency too, like consistency on your goals or whatever it is. Like you got to think about, I know you said you're in college, and so I can only imagine that a routine probably helps you out with your education. I would imagine. I mean,
oh yeah, there's no question my mind helps with an education.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I heard somebody say one time that human beings are routine oriented. And whenever we're outside of that routine, like you said, you travel a lot. I could like it probably to me, if I go travel, it depends on why I'm traveling. But if I go travel, I'm sort of out of my routine. I can feel that, I can feel the difference in that.
Right. It
Like,
definitely does feel different. But I think there's sometimes where it's great to break the structure, like a vacation. We
yeah,
all need that sometimes. We can't live in the same type of day every day. Do you know how
right.
boring we get?
Yep.
We'd be going by 9 o'clock each night to sleep.
Yeah. Well, you see that a lot though, man. You see that with people who are trying to do something, pursue a career or whatever it is, and they're just like so it's almost like they're doing the opposite of like they're taking work hard to the extreme, and they never give themselves a day off and they're working like 72 hours a week or whatever it is, something crazy. Um I just think there's very few people that's sustainable for. I think most people we're not built for that,
Yeah, that's my problem.
what the too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to give yourself some time off every once in a while.
I have to do that. I've
Yeah.
been known to be like work a lot and oh shoot. Well, I didn't have time to do laundry today.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with taking breaks, man. That's what I tell people all the time. Like you gotta be able to be consistent with it, and don't kill yourself over it. Like I mean, some people can work all day every day, and some people can't. You got to find the balance for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely working on it to this day.
Yeah, it's a journey for sure. It's a work in progress.
For me, especially, yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen,
I
man. It's
did
been
take a vacation. Well, not a vacation, but one thing I did do a while back ago was I took a break and literally went to the Red Skeleton Museum. That's close to Vincennes, so there's a break for you.
yeah. I haven't heard of that. What is that?
Basically, a museum about Red Skeleton.
Okay. Okay.
He was a iconic comedian back in the day.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When I say back in the day, I mean way back in the day.
Yeah,
I
I've
mean,
never
he
heard
was
of that.
before Yosemite Sam,
Oh,
which
okay.
actually his character Deadeye was the inspiration for.
Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
Uh, well, we played a lot of characters, and his character Deadeye was like a cowboy.
Hmm.
He was the inspiration behind the Looney Tunes character Yosemite Sam.
Okay. Well, we covered a lot of stuff here today, man. I appreciate your time. Appreciate talking to you. And I like,
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
yeah, yeah, and I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, appreciate what you're doing. Keep killing it, man. You're obviously doing something right.
Well, I tried to. Thank you again.
Yeah, and like I said, no doubt you'll reach the right person and change their life. I think that's what it's all about. Um, if you can hang out for just a second, I'll explain to you about the upload process. But I do appreciate it, man. Hey guys, I really appreciate everybody tuning in today. If you found this content or this episode useful and intriguing, you can visit us on social media. This is Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple and Google Podcasts. Pure Wisdom Podcast on all social medias. You can interact with us, follow, like, and share there, and we will see you guys next time.